My girlfriend suggested we swap partners with my best friend. Now we're thinking of making the switch permanent. Stacy brought it up during game night at Duke and Candace's apartment. We should do a relationship swap for a month, she said. Her eyes locked on Duke the entire time. The room went silent. Duke's face turned red. Candace stared at her drink like she wanted to disappear, and I sat there trying to process what I just heard. Stacy kept talking, explaining how couples do this all the time to keep things exciting, how it would make us appreciate each other more. But the way she kept glancing at Duke, touching her hair, leaning forward, I knew this wasn't about appreciation. She'd already decided. Duke wouldn't look at me. Candace was blinking back tears. When Stacy turned to me with that expectant smile and asked if I was in, I looked at Candace's terrified face and Duke's guilty expression. Something about the whole setup felt wrong, but I heard myself say yes anyway. The first week, Stacy packed 3 suitcases to move to Duke's place. Candace showed up at my door with one small bag, apologizing before she even stepped inside. Within 2 days, I noticed everything. My apartment was cleaner than it had been in months. There was actual food in my fridge, organized by type. I came home to dinner on the table and Candace asking about my day like she genuinely wanted to know the answer. Meanwhile, my phone kept lighting up with texts from Duke. Screenshots of his credit card statement showing $200 in takeout charges he never approved. Photos of his living room completely rearranged without him knowing. Messages at 3 a.m. saying he couldn't sleep because Stacy had invited 6 people over on a work night without asking. By week 2, I'd started looking forward to coming home. Candace remembered my mom's birthday before I did, left a note reminding me to call her. She noticed when I had a bad day and made my favorite meal without me saying anything. She laughed at my jokes, actually listened when I talked, existed in my space like she belonged there. Duke came over one night while Stacy was out. He walked into my apartment, saw the organized bookshelf, the meal plan Candace had made me, the fresh flowers on the table. He just stood there staring. Then he pulled out his phone and showed me Stacy's Instagram. She'd posted a photo with him captioned, "Found my perfect match," with a dozen heart emojis. Duke's face in the photo looked exhausted. Week 3, the difference became impossible to ignore. Duke sent me a video from dinner. Stacy had taken him to the most expensive restaurant in the city, ordered 3 appetizers and 2 entrees, sent back multiple dishes, then made a scene when he suggested splitting the bill. You could hear her voice echoing through the restaurant. That same night, Candace and I went to a farmer's market. She bought ingredients to make my favorite dish and physically blocked me from paying, insisting I'd already done enough for her. I realized I'd never once felt this comfortable with Stacy, not in 2 years. By week 4, Duke started showing up at my place more often. He'd sit at my kitchen table watching Candace cook, and I could see something breaking in him. One night he stayed until 2 a.m., just sitting there in silence. Finally, he looked at me and said he couldn't go back. I told him I couldn't either. The next morning, Candace made breakfast like always. When I told her Stacy was coming to get her things, that the month was almost up, she went completely still. Her hands stopped moving. She stared at the eggs in the pan, and I watched her eyes fill with tears. I told her I didn't want her to leave. She turned around and just looked at me, crying silently. That afternoon, Stacy walked in with Duke behind her. She had this triumphant smile on her face, already acting like she owned the place again. She asked if I was ready to switch back, if I missed her. I looked past her at Duke. He was staring at Candace with this expression I'd never seen before, like he'd lost something irreplaceable and only just realized it. I told Stacy we wanted to make the switch permanent. Her smile vanished instantly. She looked at Duke, waiting for him to correct me, to tell her this was a joke. Duke took a step back from her and told her he agreed with me. Her face went from shock to rage in seconds. She started yelling about how Candace was boring, personality-free, pathetic. Duke cut her off, told her Candace was kind, thoughtful, actually cared about people besides herself. I added that Candace remembered my mom's birthday. Stacy turned on Candace, screaming that she'd stolen her boyfriend, that she was a manipulative snake. Candace just stood there quietly and said she didn't steal anyone. Stacy had given me away. Stacy grabbed her things and slammed the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall. Duke and I just stood there for a second, then started laughing. Candace and I got married 2 years later. Duke was my best man.